You know, it's funny. People go about their lives thinking they're in control of their choices, their path, their little routines. But then something happens. Something you didn't plan for. A message, a sign, a moment that feels designed, not by you, not by chance, but by something else, something bigger. And suddenly you're sitting there wondering, why am I here? Why am I hearing this now? That's not coincidence. That's not luck. That's intentional. Because sometimes when the noise gets too loud and the masks get too heavy, the universe, or whatever name you give it, leans in and whispers. You wake up. Same bed, same room, same damn sky out the window. You stretch, you check your phone, you scroll through lives that look happier than yours, shinier, filtered, perfect, and you tell yourself, it's just another day. But what if it's not? What if that coffee stain on your shirt, that missed bus, that phone call you didn't answer? What if none of it is random? What if the little cracks in your routine are there for a reason? What if everything is placed with purpose? See, people love the idea of control. They eat it up like candy. They believe they're the authors of every line in their story. Cute, right? But if you really look close, you'll see the strings. You'll see how perfectly timed some things are, like that stranger who looked you in the eyes a second longer than usual. Like the song that played right when you were about to give up. Like this moment, you watching, listening, maybe even feeling something shift. That's not you, that's something else. Patterns. That's the thing. You only notice them when you stop pretending they're not there. People get so lost in distractions, phones, noise, status, survival, they forget to see. But when you pause, when everything goes quiet, you start noticing the connections, the way things fall apart right before they're supposed to come together, the way someone walks out so someone better can walk in. Not chance. Not chaos, design. You ever meet someone and feel like you've known them forever? Or walk into a place for the first time but feel like you've been there before? Deja vu? People say it's just a glitch. I say it's a reminder. A reminder that this life of yours isn't just pixels and randomness. It's a stage, carefully lit, carefully scripted. And whether you believe in God, the universe, fate, or just the chaos of it all, something decided you needed to see what you're seeing right now. And here's the twisted part. You think your pain, your mistakes, your heartbreaks, you think they're accidents? No. They were required reading. Every fall you took was a push in the right direction. Every loss, a redirection. You don't get to see the whole picture from where you're standing, but someone does. Someone has the blueprint, and whether you like it or not, you're following it. People walk around waiting for signs, praying for answers, begging for clarity, and when it comes, wrapped in struggle or silence or someone they never expected, they dismiss it. Too hard, too weird, too inconvenient. But the truth doesn't care how comfortable you are. It doesn't knock politely. It crashes through the door and flips the table. Because if you were paying attention, if you really opened your eyes, you'd realize the signs were always there. You were just too distracted to notice. Funny thing about humans, they hate uncertainty, but thrive in it. The unknown scares them, but it's also where all the magic happens. You want proof, you want logic, but what you need is trust. Not the fairy tale kind, not the blind kind, the kind that whispers, this doesn't make sense now, but one day it will. Kind that lets you fall. Every person you've met, every failure you've faced, every sleepless night staring at the ceiling wondering what it's all for, none of that was wasted. Every one of those moments was placed deliberately. And not just for you. You were a piece in someone else's puzzle too. That thing you said, that thing you did, maybe even your absence. It shaped someone else. That's how the design works. Interlocked, intertwined. You're not just living your story, you're affecting theirs. So go ahead, keep pretending it's all random. Keep brushing off the goosebumps, the gut feelings, the perfectly timed coincidences. But deep down, you know better. You've always known better. There's too much precision in the mess, too much meaning in the madness, and the more you deny it, the louder it gets. Until eventually, you can't ignore it anymore. You ever notice how things start to fall apart? Right when you think you've got it all under control? You line up the pieces just right. Job, money, people clapping at the right times, and boom, something slips. Something breaks. You lose your grip. And the first thing you think is, why me? But maybe, just maybe, that break wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was a hand on your shoulder turning you around, saying, wrong way, darling. Try again. People hate disruption. Oh, they loathe it. Because it messes with their illusions. The schedule, the plan, the dream they've been sold since they were 5. Graduate. Succeed. Be liked. Die slowly. But when something slices through that, like a blade, that's not the universe being cruel. That's if you kept going the way you were going, you would have ended up exactly where you didn't belong. Funny how that works. You lose a job, you call it bad luck. Someone betrays you, you say it's heartbreak. Your plan collapses and suddenly you're pacing around thinking life's unfair. But have you ever noticed what comes after? Have you looked at the pieces after the explosion? That pain you thought would destroy you? Yeah, that one. It pushed you to a new place, a better place, one you would have never walked into willingly. That's the trick. Most people won't move until the floor beneath them disappears. It's not cruelty, it's strategy. See, life doesn't knock gently when it wants your attention. It kicks the door in. It throws a chair through the window. And you're left sitting in the wreckage thinking everything's ruined. But maybe that wreckage is the very thing that saves you. Maybe you were building a castle on sand and it had to fall. Maybe you were clinging to a version of yourself that was never meant to last. And so life comes in, loud, messy, and says, let's try something different. People think direction comes as a whisper, a sign, a feather floating down from the sky. But sometimes it comes wrapped in fire. It comes dressed as chaos. Because if life didn't shake you, you wouldn't move. You'd stay stuck in your little loop, numb and pretending. So when everything falls apart, don't look at what you lost. Look at where it's pushing you. Because behind every disruption is a reroute. And if you zoom out, really zoom out, you'll see it's not random, it's orchestration. You ever been stuck in traffic, fuming, only to find out later there was an accident ahead that you avoided? That delay you hated might have saved your life. That person who ghosted you might have cleared the space for someone who actually sees you. That thing you didn't get, it wasn't rejection, it was protection. But we're so addicted to the story in our head, so obsessed with how we think it's supposed to go, that we miss the real story being written underneath. People don't change when things are easy. Nah, they change when the fire gets close, when the walls start shaking, when comfort gets ripped out from under them, and they're left with nothing but themselves and their choices. That's when the truth shows up. That's when direction reveals itself, not with a map, not with a plan, but with a hard stop and a shove towards somewhere new. Somewhere uncomfortable, somewhere necessary. Disruption is a teacher, the kind that doesn't coddle you, the kind that slaps the lies out of your mouth and forces you to speak truth. And yeah, it's painful, it's ugly, it leaves scars, but scars are proof you've been redirected. Proof that something had to die for something better to be born. You won't see it right away. That's the point. If you knew what was coming, you'd try to control it, but sometimes the best gift life can give you is to ruin your plan so you can finally step into the one that was meant for you. You thought it was falling apart. Maybe it was actually falling into place, but not the place you imagined, the place you need to be. Not the path you chose, the path that was chosen for you. And you wouldn't have walked it unless everything else got blown to hell. Huh? You ever have one of those nights where you're staring at the ceiling, completely still, completely empty, and the silence feels like a weight? The kind of silence that makes you question everything, like it's holding you hostage. It's like all the noise in your head gets louder, the quieter everything else becomes. And then, in the middle of it, you hear it. The thing you've been avoiding, the thing you've been running from, yourself. But you don't know what to do with that. Because here's the thing. We fill our lives with noise because we're terrified of silence. Terrified of facing what's really there, what's really inside. And so we drown it out with distractions. We pile on more work, more people, more chaos, anything to avoid that one moment when it all stops and we have to confront what's been hiding behind the noise. But here's the catch. It's in those moments when the noise finally does stop that we find clarity. We don't find it in the rush, in the hustle, in the perfect Instagram life we curate. No, we find it in the stillness, in the space between thoughts, in the moments where it all goes silent. because that's when the truth comes crashing through. The truth that you've been too busy to notice, too distracted to hear, but it's there. It's funny, isn't it? You can spend years running at full speed, trying to outrun your problems, your thoughts, your fears. You can pile on as much noise as you want, thinking it'll drown out the uncomfortable truth that keeps tapping on your shoulder. But the moment that noise stops, that's when everything gets real. And it hits you like a freight train. The things you've been putting off, the things you've been avoiding, the choices you've been too scared to make, all of it comes rushing in when the world shuts up for just a second. That's when you realize silence isn't empty, it's not a void, it's full. It's filled with all the things you've been running from and all the answers you've been searching for. But only if you're brave enough to sit in it, only if you're bold enough to look at it straight in the face and say, all right, show me what I've been missing. That's when you find out who you really are. Not when everything's perfect, not when everything's loud, not when you're surrounded by distraction, but when it's just you, alone, with your thoughts, with nothing to hide behind. And that's the trick, isn't it? Life doesn't make sense in the noise. You can't hear the whispers of truth when the world's yelling at you. You can't find clarity in the chaos, in the endless busyness of doing, but you can find it in the quiet. The kind of quiet that scares the hell out of you, the kind that forces you to face your demons, the kind that forces you to face your demons, the kind that makes you look at your life and say, all right, this is where I am now. What am I going to do about it? Because that's when the change happens. When the silence forces you to stop pretending, forces you to face reality, and man, is it uncomfortable. Because the truth doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It doesn't care if you've built a nice little life around your distractions. It comes in uninvited and starts tearing down the walls you've spent years building. And in those moments, when you're lying there in the silence, it feels like everything is falling apart, but what if it's not falling apart? What if it's falling into place? What if that silence, that stillness, is exactly what you needed to hear the things you've been too afraid to hear? You see, the universe has a way of stopping us, of making us face the uncomfortable truth. It has a way of shutting down all the noise, just so we can finally see. It's like a reset button. And yeah, it feels like the ground's been ripped out from under you, but it's not chaos. It's clarity disguised as chaos. It's the universe telling you that you've been running long enough, that you've been avoiding long enough. And now it's time to sit with yourself. No distractions, no excuses, just you and the truth. And that's when the shift happens. Not in the middle of your busy day, not when you're distracted trying to get everything right. It happens in the quiet. In the moments when you're forced to stop, when you're forced to listen. Because in those moments the noise fades and the answers rise. But here's the thing, most people don't want to face that. They don't want the quiet. They don't want the stillness. They want to keep running. But those who are brave enough to sit in it, they find something. They find everything they've been searching for. That's the gift of the silence, the gift of the stillness. It's not empty, it's a gold mine of clarity waiting for those who dare to listen. And when you finally stop, when you finally let the noise fall away, that's when you see, that's when you find. You ever look around and feel like you're the only one who doesn't have the answers? Like everyone else is in on some secret you haven't figured out yet? It's that feeling when you realize you don't have control, when everything's spinning and you're just hanging on for dear life. People always talk about finding the answer, like it's this magical thing that will suddenly make everything make sense. But here's the thing. The answer isn't some neat little package that drops into your lap. It's a process. It's a journey. And it's a painful one. Because the truth doesn't come with a bow. It doesn't care about your comfort. It doesn't care about your timelines or your neat little plans. It comes when it wants to come. And usually, it comes when you least expect it. You know what's hilarious? People act like they have it all figured out. Like they have a map that shows them exactly where they're going. They think if they just follow the right steps, hit the right milestones, then boom, they'll be fine, they'll be happy. But that's the illusion. That's the big lie. The truth is, everyone's guessing. Everyone's winging it. You're not the only one. People walk around with their masks on, pretending they've got it all under control, but underneath, they're just as lost as you are. They just hide it better. And the thing that gets me, the ones who seem like they have it all together are often the ones who've convinced themselves the most. They've built a life around pretending that they know. They've convinced themselves that if they act like they know, maybe, just maybe, they'll start to believe it too. But here's the punchline. You never know. Not really. And that's the beauty of it. The chaos, the uncertainty, the confusion, all of it, that's where the magic happens. When you have no idea what's next, when you're standing on the edge of the unknown, looking down into the abyss, thinking, is this it? That's when the real answers show up. That's when you're forced to finally see. You think you have control, but really, you've been held together by threads the whole time. Threads that you can't even see. Threads that you can't even touch. And the moment you think you've got everything wrapped up nice and tight, the universe just comes along and snaps them. Just like that. You're not supposed to know it all. You're not supposed to have it all figured out, because you're human. And if you really want to find the answer, you have to be okay with not having it. You have to embrace the uncertainty. You have to stop pretending like you can control everything. Because the truth is messy. It's uncomfortable. It's unpredictable. It's a storm in the middle of calm seas. A wrecking ball tearing down the walls you built, one brick at a time. And when it does, when everything gets destroyed and you're sitting there covered in rubble, that's when you find out who you really are. That's when you find the answer. But here's the catch. You don't get to control when it comes. You don't get to dictate the timing. It doesn't show up on your schedule. It shows up when you least expect it. It shows up when you're ready. Not when you think you're ready. And that's the sick joke of it all. You think you can plan, you think you can predict, you think you can control. But all you're doing is keeping yourself distracted. You're filling the space with noise because you're afraid of what might happen if you stop. You're afraid of the quiet, the silence, because in that silence, you might just hear the truth. You might just hear the one thing you're avoiding, that you don't have all the answers. You never did. You never will. And that's perfectly fine. Because the answer isn't out there. It's not in some big moment of clarity or a sign that falls from the sky. It's in the small moments. It's in the decisions you make when the noise dies down. It's in the space between the chaos. It's in the broken pieces. And when you finally get comfortable with not knowing, when you finally stop pretending you have it all figured out, that's when everything clicks. That's when the chaos starts to make sense. So stop looking for the answers out there. Stop thinking someone else has the key. There's no key. There's no magic formula. There's just you, the mess, the confusion, the uncertainty, all of it. And that's enough. Because in the end, the only answer that matters is the one you create in the silence, in the mess, in the moments where you stop pretending. That's where the truth lies. And maybe, just maybe, that's the only answer you need.